Hello everyone and welcome back to another video for Clinical Parasitology Laboratory. So in this video, we'll discuss experiment 2 and 3, the physical, chemical, and direct microscopic examination of stool. So here are the learning objectives for this topic: to enumerate the normal and abnormal physical characteristics of stool, to describe correctly the collected stool specimen as to color, odor, and consistency, to skillfully perform the physical, chemical, and direct microscopic examination of stool, and to report correctly the obtained results you have viewed under the microscope. So let's talk about the physical examination. So for the physical examination of stool, this is also known as macroscopic examination. So this is the physical observation of the color and consistency of the stool sample. So make sure that once you receive the stool specimen in the laboratory, make sure that the details, specifically the label of the specimen container, should match the details in the requisition form. So you may use this table as a guide in describing the color and consistency of our stool sample. For the consistency, make sure that you use an applicator stick to poke or puncture your sample for you to check if it's hard, formed, and semi-formed. So the list goes on. You may follow this table for your guide. Remember, just like we have discussed in topic 1, specimen viability, according to our references, form stool may be received or may be processed in the lab within 24 hours, while soft to semi-soft stool is within 1 hour, while watery and diarrheic stool is 30 minutes. So now let's talk about the chemical examination of stool. So the first method under chemical examination of stool is benzidine method or fecal occult blood test. So when we say occult, that means hidden. So this method detects hidden blood in stool by using benzidine, glacial acetic acid, and hydrogen peroxide. So remember that one molecule present on our red blood cell is hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is or has a peroxidase-like activity that oxidizes the colorless benzidine into a blue or blue-green compound. So it indicates a positive test for gastrointestinal bleeding. So though it's now largely replaced due to safety concerns and better alternatives like the guaiac or immunochemical test. So a positive reaction appear as a blue or green in color, while a no color or colorless means negative. But remember that there are dietary restrictions regarding this method that we will be discussing later on. So the one that we'll be performing under chemical examination of stool is the fecal occult blood test or FOBT. So some references call this as the Hemoccult method, and it is a test kit used to screen hidden blood, especially in cases of colorectal cancer and other gastrointestinal issues. So this has a similar principle with the benzidine method. So there are two types. We have the guaiac-based method or the GFOBT. So instead of the benzidine, we use guaiac as the base, which is safer and easier to use. We also have immunochemical method or IFOBT. So compared to the guaiac base, immunochemical method has no dietary restrictions. So here is a procedure for the fecal occult blood test. So you'll be receiving a test kit which has two sides. No? So the front side contains the specimen window. So there are two windows. We have the specimen A and the specimen B. So you can fit two different specimen on this test kit. So using an applicator stick or a spatula, grab a small amount of stool sample and smear it on the specimen well or window. And then close it down. And then at the back portion, we now use the hydrogen peroxide as our reagent. So we put 1 drop onto the reagent area where the smear mirrors the reagent. So 1 drop on each well, and of course another drop for the control, the positive and negative control. So remember that the guayak is already incorporated on the test kit. So here is a simple diagram that shows the principle of the fecal occult blood test. So the main molecule that we are looking for is the hemoglobin, which is a molecule present on your red blood cells. So if red blood cells are present, then of course, this indicates bleeding in the stool sample. So if hemoglobin is present, it has a peroxidase-like activity that hydrolyzes our reagent H2O2 or hydrogen peroxide. So if hydrogen peroxide is hydrolyzed, it will release oxygen and water in the process. Oxygen will combine or react with the guaiac reagent incorporated on our test kit. So remember that guaiac on its base form is a colorless compound. If guaiac is oxidized, it becomes quinone in the process. So remember, quinone is a blue color compound. So this is actually the positive result for the fecal occult blood test. So here is the reporting for the fecal occult blood test. So kindly take note of this table as a guide for you to identify the positive result. So remember that blue is considered positive and the intensity of the blue color is or corresponds to each of the grading. So for trace, we have very faint blue, and for the 4 plus, we have the dark Prussian blue. If colorless is observed in the fecal occult blood test kit, this is considered to be negative. So here are some patient considerations before submitting a sample for fecal occult blood test. So number 1, avoid ingestion of red meat, fish, poultry, and some vegetables because this contains peroxidase. So this peroxidase containing food causes false positive result on our FOBT test or fecal occult blood test. So diet should be free from peroxidase containing foods for at least 3 days prior to testing. Drugs such as aspirin and other inflammatory drugs may cause increased blood loss from the gastrointestinal tract. So these drugs may also cause false positive because they increases the chances of bleeding in the gastrointestinal tract of normal persons. While for the false negative test, vitamin C or consumption of increased amounts of vitamin C can cause false negative. Since vitamin C is an antioxidant, so it removes oxygen in the process. So hence causes false negative. So now let's go to the microscopic examination of stool. So in order for us to visualize the different stages of parasites in stool, we perform or create a direct fecal smear. So there are 2 types of fecal smear that we use. The first one is the saline wet mount. Basically, this is the usage of a normal saline solution at around 0.85%, and this is useful for most parasitic stages. Next is the iodine wet mount. So iodine instead of a normal solution is used in this process. So this is more common for protozoan cysts since it highlights their nucleus and other cell structures. Next, we also employ permanent staining specifically for protozoan to visualize the cell details of such parasite. So example of permanent stains that we employ is trichrome stain, rice stain, and acid-fast bacilli stain or AFB stain. So the preparation of a direct wet preparation or a direct fecal smear is very simple. So in our experiment, kindly prepare 2 slides and label them properly. So usually we label our slide based on the details included in the specimen container. So that includes the name of the patient, age and sex, the procedure used or done, and of course the date and time of collection. So some details like the diagnosis, physician, and hospital number or patient number may also be included. So to appreciate the procedure for the direct fecal smear, let's watch a video from Dr. Kusumasari. So this is a saline specimen preparation, and it starts with adding 1 drop of normal saline solution onto the center of a glass slide. Using a spatula or an applicator stick, transfer 2 to 4 grams of stool sample. Mix thoroughly with the normal saline solution until you can create an even suspension. And then cover the smear with a cover slip. So in order for you to identify if the smear is a good smear, so you can put the smear on top of a printed newspaper. So if the print of the newspaper can be seen through this smear, then that is a smear good for direct microscopic exam. So for the iodine preparation, this is very similar. So instead of normal saline solution, we add iodine. So 1 drop of iodine, and then using an applicator stick, transfer 2 to 4 grams of stool sample. Mix thoroughly and add a cover slip for the preparation. So again, the smear should not be too thick or too thin. You can use a newspaper on below to check for the thickness or thinness of the smear. So now let's talk about the different microscopic elements that can be seen in stool. So let's start with the microscopic elements, starting with the abnormal elements found in stool. So the first ones are the red blood cells. So red blood cells, also known as erythrocytes, are biconcave discs which are flat and has a depressed center. So this depressed center is also known as the central pallor. So the presence of red blood cells, specifically at higher number, is a sign of intestinal bleeding. So this can be confirmed with our result with the fecal occult blood test, and there are 2 types of intestinal bleeding based on the color of the stool sample. So the first one is the lower gastrointestinal tract. So according to our references, a bright red stool is more common since the amount of oxidation is less compared to a bleeding from the upper gastrointestinal tract. Since the bleeding is from the upper, the color of the stool becomes dark or black due to oxidation. So the next abnormal microscopic elements found in stool are white blood cells. White blood cells, also known as leukocytes, are blood cells that contains a granular cytoplasm and multi-lobe nuclei. But remember, since we are only using a saline wet mount for this procedure, the multi-lobe nuclei may not be visible. So a specialized stain can be used to highlight this structure. So remember that white blood cell in stool, especially at higher numbers, are a sign of intestinal infection. So remember that eosinophils are the white blood cells that are highest in parasitic infections. So some other reference laboratories may use pus cells instead of white blood cell in reporting this type of blood cells in stool. So again, just like what I have said, it requires special staining, GEMSA stain or a Wright stain to highlight specifically the nuclei of such blood cell. So here is a microscopic picture of a stool sample showing red blood cells and white blood cells. So take note of the red blood cells present in the picture. So these are biconcave discs with central pallor, while the WBCs, just like here on this picture, shows a granular cytoplasm. So now let's talk about the normal microscopic elements found in stool. So again, these are normal, but increase in numbers can impose a clinical significance. So the first ones are macrophages. So macrophages are large mononuclear cells which generally are at around 10 to 30 micrometers in diameter. So they contain an abundant, often a vacuolated cytoplasm, just like here on this picture. So the significance of macrophages in stool usually signal inflammation or infection in the gut. So these immune cells are usually live in the intestinal lining of our gastrointestinal tract. So their presence in stool often indicate that they are being shed away due to increased immune activity such as inflammatory bowel diseases, no? Such as Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. So the next elements are the epithelial cells. Epithelial cells are polygonal or round with a moderate amount of pale cytoplasm and a single round to oval nucleus. So epithelial cells, just like macrophages in stool, are normal cells shed from the lining of the gastrointestinal tract. So they play a role in digestion and protection, but their presence in large numbers or with other signs like white blood cells can signal inflammation, infection, or inflammatory bowel diseases such as Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. Remember that a normal stool sample usually has very few epithelial cells and white blood cells. So finding more of these cells may suggest that the gut or the gastrointestinal tract might need attention. So here is a side-by-side picture of a stained and unstained picture of macrophages. Here are the pictures for epithelial cell. Take note of the stained one, which has the visible mononuclear or mononucleus. Kindly take note for the unstained one since epithelial cells are highly refractive. So using a high intensity light in the microscope may cause this structure to not be visible or blend in the background. That's why it's very important that you lower down your light intensity when viewing your direct fecal smear. Next microscopic elements are bacteria. So bacteria are normal in the stool sample, but increased numbers may be associated with bacterial infections or poorly preserved sample. Next are fat. Fat are large orange or dark orange colored globules or droplets, which may indicate increased consumption of fatty foods or diet. So the presence of fat in stool is called steatorrhea. So in cases of abnormality, so patient with or associated with malabsorption or deficiency of digestive enzymes may show multiple fat globules in their sample. Next, meat and muscle fibers. So again, these are normal and these are seen especially on increased consumption of meat products. So these are serrated structure from undigested meat products. No? So the presence of these structures is called creatorrhea. So other microscopic elements, also known as artifacts, which means that they are not normally released in stool, but rather only introduced. So like for example, for yeast and fungi, these are a sign of improper collection. So these type of artifacts may be mistaken as amoeba. So next is pollen grain. So this can be mistaken, especially in this left picture, can be mistaken from Ascaris lumbricoides ova, while this one can be mistaken from Trichuris trichiura ova. Another artifacts, we have plant fibers. So this may resemble parasitic larva, while the plant cell may resemble ova, no? Such as hookworm or even Ascaris lumbricoides ova. Other artifacts include air bubbles and crystals. So for crystals, take note the highest concentration of crystals present in stool or maybe introduced in stool are charcot-laden crystals. So these crystals may be seen in patients who are treated with parasitic infections because charcot-laden crystals are crystals from the fragmented eosinophils. In terms of reporting, please take note that if no parasites are seen, write no ova or parasite found or no intestinal parasite seen. If parasites are seen, refer to the table below and count the number of eggs per slide for each type of parasite. Remember that the reporting for this type of for our direct fecal smear may vary from one laboratory to another, but on our case we'll follow this table instead. So kindly take note that we have to report each parasite individually. So here is an example of the reporting for your guide. For blood cells, this can be reported separately, specifically the white blood cells and red blood cells. So we will use this table, but again, different laboratories may employ different ranges or references. So that ends our discussion for experiment 2 and 3, the physical, chemical, and direct microscopic exam of stool. Thank you and have a nice day.